Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something crafty, please. I've got some amazing gift tags for you today using NICOLE's Amplify Medium. You're not going to believe what it does. All right, our first step is to create those amazing backgrounds, and believe it or not, it starts with a piece of a white cardstock. So I'm going to be using 3 Memento inks. I've got Tuxedo Black, Cottage Ivy, and Grape Jelly. And I'm going to start with Tuxedo Black since that is the base of our tags. And I'm just going to go direct to paper and add a whole bunch of ink onto here, enough to cover space for 2 of those tags. And that's pretty good to start. So you see that I haven't fully covered the entire panel. Well, I'm going to use grape jelly with a finger dauber here and start working in this purple color. Once this dries, you are going to definitely see these hints of purple and green throughout. So it's not really necessary to get black all over. So I'm just adding in some of the grape jelly here, and then I can go into the Cottage Ivy as well and add bits of that. Okay, so I've got this panel finished, and you can see that that green and purple is just showing through the black, and it's all dry at this point. So now is when we're really going to make the magic happen. I have this stencil here that has this kind of bubbly dotty pattern to it, and I'm going to add this to my piece of cardstock. And I'm going to use this medium called Amplify. And this happens to be obviously the black Amplify. And this is what creates those amazing bumps on the cardstock. So I'm just loading up my brush or my palette knife here. And I'm going to make sure that I have this in all of the little holes everywhere. And you don't need a lot of Amplify in order for this to work. So just make sure that your holes are filled and you have it everywhere that you want it to be. So just making sure that I'm getting it in all the little nooks and crannies. This stuff is truly amazing. It goes on pretty easily. It's pretty fluid. It's not going to seep too badly underneath the stencil. You can always use some temporary adhesive on the backs of your stencil to help keep that from happening. But I find that it's really not such a big deal in this application because the results outweigh any kind of seepage that you might get. All right, so that's pretty good. I don't think I have every hole filled, but I have a vast majority of them. Just trying to get some of these up on the end here. There we go. All right, and I'm going to take this off. So this is the Amplify on the cardstock. Now, in order to make the magic happen, you have to use a heat gun. And you can heat from the top or the bottom. It really doesn't matter, but I'm going to heat from the top because it's easier for video. And I will try to turn the volume down a little bit here. Actually, I'll transfer over to some music so you can really see all of the magic happen because this is totally worth watching. All right, so this panel is now complete and you can see all that amazing texture on here. It is just simply amazing what that Amplify does. It looks all bumpy and gross and just completely burnt and warped. And you can see in the areas here where it kind of went underneath the paper, it made this really cool texture. So now I can run this through my die cut machine with my tag die, and I'm not worried about this smushing down. It's actually going to retain its shape pretty well, and that will finish up the tag part of this project. All right, so we have our tags complete, And these are ready to rock and roll. If you wanted to, you could cut an additional piece for the back. If you have a lot of schmutz or anything on the back here that you want to cover, you could cut an extra tag and just glue them together, or you can leave them as is. So my tags are ready to go. Now we need to do some simple watercoloring on our digi images. And I absolutely adore these images. I don't think they need a whole lot to them, but I'm going to be using my Memento inks and some watercolor to color them in. So first I have some Tangelo. So I'm going to put a lot of that down because I'm going to use a lot of it. And then I'm going to use some Tuxedo Black. And I need Rich Cocoa. And then I have Pear Tart and Cottage Ivy. All right, so those are the colors I'm going to use to color these guys up. And we'll start with the Tangelo, and I'll add in a nice little amount of water. Give this a nice light orange color to start with. And these guys are really just going to get watercolored in kind of haphazard. I'm really not looking at doing anything specific right now. I just want to get the orange down, and I'm going to avoid obviously areas that I would like to keep white or that I would like to have as a different color. And I'm going into my water now so I can add a little bit of water and make this just a little lighter, believe it or not. I really don't want these guys to be too garishly orange. All right, so that should do it for this guy here. And I even got a little bit on his eye, but I don't know that it's worth trying to pick up the color. It'll be just fine. And then on our other guy here, we'll do him as well. So by alternating back and forth between the two images, I can allow it to dry. And then when I come back to it, it'll be just about the right saturation for me to start adding in detail and different colors. All right, so there's our first layers of orange. So I'll go back to our first one here. And I'm going to just add the tiniest bit of black to this orange. And that's going to be really great for shadows. So I'm just going to pull some shadows down the side here. And underneath, he's going to get cut off of this ground, so it's kind of important to have a little bit of an idea that there's ground underneath him. And I just went into my clean water to help blend out the line there. All right, I'm also going to take a little bit of this to go around this guy's nose because he's got a pretty protruding nose. All right, and then I'm going to go into his eye sockets here. So these guys haven't slept. They're kind of terrified. Just straight into the black and make some really deep bags under these guys' eyes. And I can take a little bit of this extra black here and pop it to give us some depth there too. All right, so again, we're going to switch to our other pumpkin here. All right, I'm going to use that same kind of blackish orange that I've created to get up into the sides here and get up underneath and again around. Now for his little teeth, I'm going to go into the brown. And this is going to kind of help let these guys pop out a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then the same for him. He needs some bags under his eyes. So let's pop those in. All right. So back to our first guy. We're going to finish up with the leaves here. So into the pear tart. And just the littlest bit of the cottage ivy. It's going to help give it some depth. And then I'll finish off his stem with the rich cocoa. And he's going to get cut out, so I'm not worried about coloring this in neat. And actually, if you noticed on the samples, I actually end up cutting off this little curly Q because that is a little bit of a pain to fussy cut. All right, so those are some simple watercolors using our Memento inks, and I will go ahead and let these dry and fussy cut them, and then we can finish with the assembly. All right, so these cutie pies are now all fussy cut, and we are ready to do some assembly. So you might think that you'd have a hard time gluing on this awesome texture, but it actually sticks quite well. So I am using a heavy-duty liquid adhesive to make sure that I get really good contact. And I'm putting a lot of glue on there. Can you see all that glue? Yeah. And pop it on here and then just give it a nice solid press. All right, so really get that pressed down on there, making sure that you get good contact with the glue and the little raised bumps from our Amplify Medium. All right, and then I'm going to do our other pumpkin here. And as far as sentiment goes, because I'm using digi files, I also went ahead and just printed out some trick-or-treat sentiment strips on some kind of brownish paper. And I'll trim this one up and put him right underneath. And then the other one will do a little chop job and break out all the different pieces. So again, this is just going to stick right onto that Amplify Medium. And just trim off the excess. And then for this one, I'll go ahead and chop up the words. And then add them in. So either way it works. They both look really cute. I opted for a more natural tone paper so that it would really blend in better versus doing something really stark and white or going for something like red or anything like that. So just personal preference. And for this last little bit here, I don't mind that it's going to go over his face. Kind of just helps bring everything together. So cute. And then of course I've got some twine that I will run through to finish these off. So I have them double strung. Pop them through the hole. And then just loop them through like so, and cut off any excess at the top, like that. So there you go. Some really adorable treat tags for some Halloween packaging. I hope you enjoyed these spooky treat tags and that they inspire you to get out some fun products to create tags of your own. I'll be back soon to surprise and delight you with some more crafty goodness. But until then, happy crafting.